Ahoy there, everyone. Welcome to my reality. And that's exactly what this is. I started the video over, I just started recording and got about a minute in and I was like, that's not what I want to say. Not because it was something or the message wasn't conveyed properly, but I guess it's difficult to explain, so what's the point in starting over, right? Anyhow, this is somewhere around my 3,300th video or so, and I've erased a bunch in the past, so I've been doing this for a long time, making videos on YouTube. And there's one message that I really want to share with people that is something that I've said over and over, and every time I say it, it makes me feel, like just kind of ridiculous saying it. Just don't let people tell you how to live and who to be. Be yourself. Be your own independent individual. Yeah, actually, I was talking with a good friend earlier I hadn't seen in a long time, and he's having kind of a hard time. And I've talked with a few people lately who have kind of had their own little stories, but the holidays kind of brings this out in people. It brings loneliness out for some people. It brings up lack of income for some people who can't afford presents, gifts for the ones they love. And all the while, people are trying to feel adequate. They want to feel worthy. The term worthy is a good one to use. It's very interchangeable in many situations, but we want to feel worthy with all of our loved ones, our friends, our family, at our workplace. We want to be recognized. We want to feel like we stand out and we mean something. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's a fine line between self-esteem and then pride or arrogance. It seems like everyone wants to boost you up until you get to a certain point, and then all of a sudden, whoa, wait a minute, back down a little bit. You need to be normal. You need to be what other people are like. I don't buy that shit. I really don't. This holiday season, I wanted to buy things for people. I did what I could, bought a few gifts, but it wasn't, I made sure to not, I never expect gifts, so I'm not going to expect myself to feel guilty that I can't find a particular gift for someone. I can do better. I know that I could buy more things for people, but that we're all individuals, and the way that we express ourselves is very, very individual, I guess. That's the only way I can describe it. I have such love for my family and for my friends and whatnot, and I hate to see people in pain. I feel like my present, my gift for Christmas is being grateful to have a loving family that matters, and to be very confident in who I am and the way that I want to live my life, because I don't intend to let others dictate how I should live. And that's what I was talking earlier with my buddy about, was how society expects us to be a certain way, and we buy into that. And for example, a lot of people my age, friends that I grew up with who don't have kids yet, start to get a little bit, nervous that they'll never meet the right one and never have kids. And I guess that would be to be expected. To be honest, my situation is different. I met my wife when I was 22, and we started dating around the time I was 23, and she worked at the restaurant next to the gas station where I pumped gas. And I'd go in there for breakfast, and she'd write little notes on the inside of my, I was dense. I didn't realize it was hitting on me. And eventually we started dating, and she had a 3-year-old son, and at first that shocked me, but we ended up staying together, and I was glad to help raise her son, who is now 22. It's been almost 20 years, and he's turned into a wonderful young man. Meanwhile, we have a 3-year-old, or a 4-year-old, and a 7-year-old, and watching them grow up as brothers is a totally different situation. But my point here is that normalcy, as far as being a parent, or what we consider normal, a lot of parents want to base raising kids off of what other kids are like, or what other parents are like. But you just can't do that. You really can't. And if you move your kids forward and just nourish what they have and what they want to do, while at the same time guiding them. For example, my son loves to play Minecraft. He loves to play video games on the iPad, and he's only 7. And I have to step up and say, no, you only get an hour or 2 hours a day, and cut him off when his time's up. And he used to get upset, but he's gotten past that. And this is because of the dopamine reward center in our brains. But this is triggered by activities like game playing, and that's why gamers get that dopamine, addiction, if you will, to gaming or to whatever they play, because it really does give you literal rewards, fake coins and whatnot. Not to get too far off track here, but the normalcy, what we consider normal, that to get married and have kids and to do all these things, they're not for everybody. It's not for everybody to have kids, and you shouldn't ever feel trapped. So if you are, say, in your, hit 40 and you think, oh my God, I might not ever have kids, don't worry about it. If you do, you do. We have long lives ahead of us. You can always adopt, or, any number of changes could happen to any one of us. I stopped trying to assume that I'm going to feel a certain way tomorrow that I feel today. Because I know better. I change my opinions weekly. Not in a big way, but just small little calibrated adjustments. And over a long period of time, over the past few years, I've really seen myself going through a lot of, changes. Perhaps not as outwardly as inwardly, because I've learned how to cope with a lot more things. And this means that I've learned to conquer my stress. I think that when I started my YouTube channel, I was in a lot of pain because of my sciatica. And that was towards the tail end of my anxiety, which is for many reasons. Here I am, coming up on 40. I can't do my job anymore. I can't be a carpenter. I want to, not just to be normal or to fit in, but to be a productive member of society and to work hard and get good exercise, And for a while I was kind of incapacitated. But, I stopped trying to justify myself to myself, if you will. I thought that during this video I would, I just picked this up earlier. It was kind of a late Christmas present to myself. Just a cheap, not relatively cheap compared to what people spend on these things, just a bong. And, I live in a state where cannabis is legal, and so therefore that's considered normal. People who smoke pot, it's not a big deal around here. But there are still states within the union that are strongly against cannabis. And you'll get arrested walking down the street and get thrown in prison for a joint. I took one of my old drip tanks and pulled the wire out. It's just a regular vape unit. Thank you, Sharon, who gave me this awesome piece that I'm using as the mod box for it. But it just heats up the coil. And I can puff through it without using a lighter. What do you know? Ordinarily I don't do that because it seems somewhat tacky to smoke cannabis while I'm doing a video, but I'm doing my evening unwind, and that was partially part of the point I wanted to make this video. I have actually behind me here these, it's a Sour Mash Corn Whiskey, 45%, and Apple Brandy, 47%. And I shouldn't say who made them, just because, but it's somebody close. And I have my own cannabis that I grew last year. And when I'm sitting here smoking something that I grew with somebody close to me, and when I'm looking, actually this right here too, I was just looking at this, it's some absinthe that another friend of mine made. And I'm really into homemade things, and that's what's cool to me. That's what's awesome, is just people living and creating and making things and doing their best to get by and really enjoying life. That's what's normal to me. That's what I would consider to be my ideal lifestyle. But what society's pushing on us is that you need to get a bigger fucking garage. You need an extra fucking garage. You need 3 garages to make sure you can fit your cars. You need not just to have cars, you also have to have enough to fit 4 in the driveway if you have company. Because you have to hold elegant dinners, and you have to keep your yard properly pruned and keep up with the Joneses and be part of the, the local community, group. I'm not dissing. I know the homeowners associations and whatnot, there's a lot of bullshit that goes on there. But what I'm trying to convey is that what we deem to be valuable in our society really doesn't welcome individuality. It welcomes conformity. And we know this, and saying this just seems so fucking obvious. I mean, how do you tell people, yeah, everybody's just a number, a zombie around me, and without having them take it personally, for one, and feel like you're talking about them, because you are a lot of the time, but also, even if they agree with you, yeah, so what? What are you going to do about it? You live in a society where a lot of people just don't care. They want to follow what they're told is normal. Go to church, come home, work. All these, eat, sleep, shit, work type attitudes that ruin life. If you're not getting out and seeing the sights, whether it be going to a concert or going on a vacation, a trip somewhere, sitting out in the woods meditating, whatever, just sitting at home and reading a book for a week. If you're a workaholic and that's what moves you, so be it. But eventually you break down and you realize that work is only part of the equation. You can work your ass off for your entire life, 16-hour shifts. It doesn't matter how much money you make. It doesn't matter how hard you work. You can't work away the need for internal dialogue and understanding. So maybe you can work hard and think at the same time. That's great too. But if you think a lot and you don't put in any effort in your life and don't do anything at all, then you feel guilty. And if you put in a lot of work but you don't give the same care to your mind and to your family, then you miss some of the most important parts of what it means to be alive. But ultimately, that's my subjective view. That's what I consider normal. You see, it's just being human. Whatever works for you. I'd like to sit here and say, well, love is the only answer and everybody needs to love one another, but I don't believe that, because for some people, they just don't have the capacity for relationships, whether they were abused, whether they'd been cheated or lied to. Some people are more fragile than others. On top of that, some people actually are whiners, or, the attention whores, and there's a lot of those out there. Not to cast insults, because I know that a lot of people do need help, and they call out for help. But, they're the kind of people who just post nothing but negative comments on, say, Facebook, and reaching out for help, but not accepting anybody's real answers, just having a cynical type of negative attitude towards life in general. And it's kind of sad. I love my life. Almost to the point where I feel guilty sometimes. Like, sure, I could be happier. But I also understand that there's ups and downs. If I was happier, there would be moments of sadness. Regardless, people get depressed. The connection between the mind and the body, the gut, which is why a lot of people feel depressed or anxious, which is what one of my friends, one of his problems, he has ulcerative colitis, and that messes with his gut flora, which in turn causes depression. And this is very common, and a lot of people have issues with this, and I'm just very grateful that I feel happy all the time, for the most part. I don't know if it's because of the smoothies I drink, because I have a variety of herbs that I take daily, as well as kratom, of course. But, cannabis isn't the answer for me. Like, it doesn't work for depression or anxiety. I smoke it in the evening, take a toke now and again, but never more than a few hits. I don't like to smoke heavily like I did when I was younger. It just doesn't work for me. This little lighter works pretty well, actually. Looks like it's about time to charge it, though. Well, I want to say thank you to everybody. And make sure the camera is still rolling, because I still have a broken old camera. I gotta buy myself a new camera and a new computer, because neither one can keep up with the times. But that's also another part of normalcy for me, is just doing what you do And don't try to keep up with the Joneses. Don't try to have the newest fucking iPhone every time, and the latest and greatest Mac computer. I spent $700 on a computer once, like a decade ago or so. Dumb mistake. Of course, the warranty was gone after a year, and then it died a week later. And since then, of course, I've usually bought them rebuilt or used or whatnot, and had, varying success. But a computer's the point. They all get messed up. Some people really believe that it's worth it to pay more. They'll pay $150,000 for a car if they can afford it, and that just blows my mind. But who am I to judge? I can honestly say I would probably buy some interesting things if I was that rich, but I don't have any interest in cars that expensive. I think humility goes a long way in what I consider to be normal. But when I say normal, I'm not trying to say conform. It's different to me. Normal to me is defined by what is the norm. And the norm would be the normal state, the average state of existence. And for me, that means observing not humans, but animals. And this shows why some people are dominating, why there's alpha males, why there's leaders and followers. It's not that you should be insulted to be different. It's just that in order to be different, we all have to have different positions. So maybe you're a person who's better off taking orders. And I've always considered myself the leader type, and I think that I'm a good leader. But at the same time, I'm good at taking orders. I'm better at taking orders almost, and I know that. It's basically that I'm an independent thinker, that if somebody else does the structuring and the work for me, I can set my mind to it. But a person has to trust a person like me to do that. So, in construction I was able to go gung-ho and learn all kinds of things, but now I'm kind of stuck. I do my own, my own herb business, but I don't, working towards having an independent lifestyle someday where I can truly work hard, but at the same time enjoy my life, because life is short, but it's only short in perspective. Most people there's some stubborn old people, okay, and there's some stubborn young people, and there's some happy old people, happy young people. It doesn't matter what age you are. You can be afflicted with any type of mental illness or depression or anxiety at any time in your life. And there are people who are old who hang on dear to life. They will not let go. And a lot of the times these are the people who have had a rough time in their life and just can't let go of certain things from the past, or maybe they're very rich. Whereas some of the most humble people, the quietest people, have said, it's just my time, I'm fine. And a person may think, well, that could just be the mere ignorance. For example, the people who accept their lot in life, that they're not rich, and that they never will be. In the past, that was very common. The kings and queens were kings and queens, and your likelihood of becoming one was nil. And today, it's pretty much the same. People will say, I can climb to the top of the ladder, but you're not going to affect any major change, most likely, as an individual in your life, as far as changing politics and the way that everything works, if you had the desire. But it doesn't mean that you can't change little bits and pieces. And this means knowledge, understanding, and understanding the world around us so we can better help it. So, before I ramble on to too many subjects, I'll wish you all well, and I'll talk to you soon. Have a happy New Year, which isn't for another 4 or 5 days, but I'm excited. I'm going to go see a Jerry Garcia birthday band play. Stay up with family and friends, and yeah, we'll see what happens. I'll talk to y'all later. Namaste and peace and all that stuff.